this lesson, I want to talk about how confident women take responsibility for their lives and they don't blame others regularly. A lot of women who do not take responsibility for their lives tend to be very resentful, hateful, spiteful, and mean because they're so angry at other people for what they've done to them. They've done this to me. They've done that to me. She did this. He did that. This family member this. And because they are so caught up and consumed in being a victim, they actually can't hold a victorious or courageous mindset. And if you are spending your time blaming other people for the things that have happened in your life, and don't get me wrong, you guys, I know that some people are victims of some horrendous and horrific things, but the key to a confident woman's mindset is that she knows that there's always power somewhere. There's always something she can do, even if it's not her fault. Okay, so I know that some people are in these really poverty-stricken, abusive sort of situations, and I would never say to a woman, well, what's your responsibility in this, right? I would never say that it was her fault, but I would ask her, how can you find the solution? So one thing that happens when you blame other people for problems and you blame other people for your situation in your life and you hold on to resentment and you hold on to hate is you actually begin to become an evil person yourself. And you actually start to feel powerless. Because think about it, if you're constantly talking about how other people have made you do this, you will never hear a confident woman going, she made me so angry. Because a confident woman knows that her emotions are her own to own. And I will tell you, I shouldn't say never. I have to catch myself being like, they made me, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in control of my own self. And I made a decision to react that way to that person. And confident women know that when they take responsibility for their emotions, for their actions, for their situations in their lives, sometimes even when it's not their fault, they actually build their confidence. Because think about it, if you're going around blaming other people for everything, you actually start to have a low self-esteem. How can you think highly of yourself when other people have that much control over you? Right? If someone can send you out into outer space of anger because of something they did, they have complete control over you. But when you say, you know what, I'm responsible for my own emotions, I'm responsible for how I respond to things, doesn't mean that I'm going to respond to them perfectly. What you allow yourself to do is then to be in control and in power to yourself. You can say, you know what, I can handle myself. Because confidence is really knowing your own power and knowing your abilities. And if you deep down know that you spiral out of control at every little turn, you know you don't have control. How can you feel confident? And again, you are now a victim. And victims can't be victors. If you're constantly thinking about what other people have done to you and how it's their fault because of this, then you are powerless. It's one of the things that I taught when I was a teacher. I talked to my students quite a bit about this, about the way that they relate to society, the systems and things. It's very important to always give yourself that hope. Always give yourself that key out. Yes, there are oppressive systems. Yes, there are situations in which, you may be a victim, right? But where can I offer myself a key? The confident woman is always asking, where can I offer myself a trap door, a way out, a secret door out? Where can I do that? And this goes back to pretending to be powerless. When we let other people dictate how we feel, or we're blaming them for every other situation in our life, instead of saying, you know what? I think I can do something here. I think I can do something in this situation. You're pretending to be powerless. You're pretending like, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. I can't figure out a solution to this issue. When you really, I believe that especially with the help of the Holy Spirit, you can figure out the solution to a multitude of problems. Okay. So confident women do not blame other people. They take responsibility wherever they can. This is a question that I actually posted on one of my Instagram stories the other day, and that was, to what extent did I contribute to this hot mess that I'm in? And I ask myself that very frequently. Okay, I remember I was dating a guy for about 3 years, and he was taking advantage of me in a lot of ways, financially, emotionally, and I was like, he's doing this and he's doing that. And, eventually the relationship just blew up. I mean, it was just the most explosive, horrific breakup. And I sat with myself and I said, this can't all be his fault. It can't be, because that would mean that I had no power, no control, no way to change my own life. So I sat there and I asked myself, to what extent did I contribute to this hot mess? And this does not mean that it absolves the other person from responsibility. But what it does is it returns the power back to me. It says, okay, instead of living in this state of hopelessness and despair where I'm like, oh, I'm just so sad and my life is forever over because we broke up, I can go, okay, I made some mistakes too. Let me work on those. How can I be better as a woman? Instead of blaming him or blaming her. And the thing about blame is that when you are blaming someone, you're also always waiting for them to apologize. You're always waiting for forgiveness. And again, you're giving them the power to restabilize you, right? So I talk about often, like, what is your baseline countenance? What is your baseline mood? If you're actually waiting for someone, when you blame someone, now it's their fault, so now they have to apologize. You're waiting for them. So you're actually at a lower countenance because you're like, oh, they're wrong and they should just apologize to me. And like, now you're in a position where you're waiting for them to do something to make you happy, right? And when you focus and shift your brain to what can I do, it's easier to forgive. And we're going to talk about forgiveness in a separate lesson, but it's easier to forgive because you can say, okay, I can see my role in this. I forgive them for their role in it. And now it's my responsibility to go make a change so that I can be better in the next situation. Okay. And I want to be very clear. When I say you don't take blame, you don't blame everybody else, but you take responsibility. Again, that doesn't mean that people can't be wrong, because there are people who do horrific, unconscionable, disrespectful, just abhorrent things. But if we're always talking about it's 100% their fault, then we have no power. One of the prompts in my mindset makeover is, the good news is everything that you've done to get yourself to this point is your responsibility. The bad news is every bad thing is part of your problem as well. So you are responsible for both the good and the bad. And here's the thing, if you cannot take responsibility for both good and bad, then you actually aren't taking responsibility for anything. Think about it. I'm responsible for the decisions I made that allowed me to quit my job. I'm also responsible for the decisions that I made that put me into $18,000 in credit card debt. So I have to accept that my decisions have consequences, and that at some point they're going to be, they're going to have an impact on my life. And even if something is quote unquote 100% someone else's fault, when I take responsibility, what I say is I'm going to find a solution because I have the power to find a solution. And confident women do not allow themselves to wallow in victimhood for long periods of time and destroy their self-image and self-worth and the way that they view themselves and their abilities. Okay, this goes back to that piece about confident women do hard things. Confident women, they don't get confidence and then they do the hard thing. They do the hard thing and then they get the confidence. And oftentimes these situations that we're in, they require us to do challenging things to get out, and that builds confidence. That fire that you're looking for is in those moments. All right, you guys, in your journal prompt, I've got some questions about feeling powerless, blame, responsibility, and I'm going to ask you to complete those below. And you guys can also write some things in the discussion box as well. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson.